Donald Trump is expanding his lead over his GOP rivals. He's now leading his closest opponent by 37 points in a new New York Times Santa College poll. This morning, the former president predicted another indictment from special counsel Jack Smith, a Truth Social post, saying any day now about his peaceful and patriotic speech. All right, Bill, should we just sort of stop the charade that from the Republican nomination race standpoint that the number of indictments matter?
No, I don't think they do matter at this point with the Republican base, because every time he gets indicted, his poll numbers go up. And I think there's a large segment of the Republican primary voters who want somebody who will fight. And the indictments are just evidence of the persecution of the former president. Now, I also think that it's still early. We're sitting here at the beginning of August, and a lot can happen. We've seen it before, candidates rising like a phoenix or coming from single digits to actually winning Iowa. But it doesn't look like that's happening right now. The next breakout moment is, of course, the debate on August 23rd to see whether one of these guys and gals are going to be able to do that without Donald Trump potentially on the stage.
And the more indictments we see, the more that people like Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, the rest of the field, they're going to get asked about this, and they're presented with this question of, do I attack Trump or do I, sidestep this? Because they know that this is a priority, and this priority of hitting back against federal law enforcement and their treatment of Trump is a priority for a lot of GOP primary voters.
Let them debate so I can see who I might consider for vice president.
Part of Trump's success is a product of media siloing. So if you're a Republican voter, you don't hear much about the things that Trump is being charged with. You don't get a lot of in-depth coverage of. I mean, the stuff that came out in the indictment 1.1, the updated charges are really damning, right? Those are really serious stuff in terms of obstruction, in terms of those things. We've got the new charges coming in Georgia. We've got new charges coming maybe in Washington. We have all these things. But if you were only watching, if your face is in the stovepipe of right-wing news, you don't hear about that stuff. You just hear about Hunter Biden. You just hear about those things. And you think Trump's fine. Hunter Biden's in big trouble. That's the big story.
All right. The one thing I would add to that, though, is that I think the Trump campaign, and Trump in particular, has done a good job of inoculating himself by previewing these charges that keep coming down as more.
The worse the better. The worse the better.
The more they pile on, the more that I'm fighting for you.
He's also being aided and abetted by his fellow challengers who refuse to really lay a glove on him on this vulnerability. Like any other campaign, any other situation, if your chief primary opponent was under this type of legal scrutiny, you would be carpet bombing them with ads, with mailers, with phone calls, with everything. And that's not really happening right now. So Trump is getting a free pass from the people who are trying to convince voters that you should pick me, not Trump, but I'm not going to talk about this. In fact, I'm going to defend him when asked about it. I don't see how any of these people could hope to actually beat him when that's the narrative. And I think you're right. They're auditioning for vice president.
A strategist told me a few weeks ago, imagine if Ron DeSantis was in the situation that Donald Trump was in. He was like, do you think Donald Trump would tiptoe around this issue? Absolutely not.
But not only is he not tiptoeing around, I just want to bring this up, though. We learned over the weekend from some reporting that Donald Trump is effectively paying his tens of millions of dollars of legal fees through campaign contributions. This is a guy who ran on saying, I'm this great businessman who's a billionaire who has all this money, and he is now asking small dollar donors to fund his legal defense, and they're doing it.
And DeSantis' campaign has started talking about the scam, the grift of this, and DeSantis himself is not going to put those words in his mouth yet, but he's letting spokespeople do it. Nikki Haley, Chris Christie. We haven't heard much from Mike Pence and Tim Scott on this. They're pretty much hoping to be in reserve, that if DeSantis and Trump take each other out, they want to remain palatable to the others. But I do think you're hearing them talk about these issues. You're hearing this stuff more and more. It's just that, I think this is a very good point, Trump is unfalsifiable. Every charge against him, everything that comes against him, if the premise is the deep state controls the world, all bad things will happen to me because I am the champion of the people, then what are you going to say?
No, then everything that comes down the pipe that's bad,
That's right. Of course I'm being indicted because I'm bringing down the deep state.
All right. Speaking